Hello, Bougie Squad. I hope you all have had a great day. You're having a great day. I hope your day has been blessed. My name is Miranda Chenault. I am the host of I'm Bougie Girl podcast. So thank you guys so much for joining us on tonight. We're going to have I have been out for a while, for a couple of weeks with family things that I need to take care of. So I'm super excited to be back with another amazing, encouraging episode of Her Story with Alaina Stevens. So you all tag your friends, invite, share this out with other people that you know because this is going to be a blessing. We pray that this Her Story will uplift and encourage and inspire those who need to hear what she has to say, who needs to hear about her journey and how she overcame. And so that's what this is all about. I Am Bougie is about uplifting, inspiring, encouraging women, men, our Bougie squad, all those who are joining us on tonight. So if this is your first time, I want to say hello and thank you all for being with us on tonight. If you've been with us before, if you're a returning Bougie Squad member, hey y'all, I'm so thankful that you are with us on tonight. But I want to do a few little housekeeping things before we move forward because I'm just super excited about just different things that have been happening in my life. And I'm super grateful. To God be the glory for just everything that is going on right now. And so I wanted to share my book has finally dropped, everybody, from Broken to Bougie. If you have not purchased my book, please go to imbougiegirl.com to purchase your book today. This is the website. Go to imbougiegirl.com. My book has dropped. It is a journey from being broken, speaking from that place of brokenness and heartache and pain, and then how you start confessing life and how you start confessing the things that God has said about you, those things that God has proclaimed that you are. So we have to start decreeing and declaring. We have to start speaking who we are. And I wasn't doing that for years. I was so busy and I had set up camp in a broken place because of the experiences that I've had. There was no healing in my life. And so I had to be healed and come to a place of wholeness in order to be able to share my story. And I'm super grateful for the opportunity to share my story. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming in. Share this out. Tell everybody to come on in the room because we're going to have an amazing guest on today. With her story. We're back again with her story. So Alaina Stevens, she is an entrepreneur, a self-made entrepreneur. She is a photographer, very talented woman. She is also a cosmetologist. She's such a blessing. And also, I met Alaina about a year ago when I first launched Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour. She came on board to assist me. Such a blessing in my life to be able to come on board and assist me and to help me in this endeavor. And you know what? Life has gotten away from us. And, she's just super busy. And so now she's all doing her own thing, just building her own brand, her photography business. And I'm super proud of her and just super grateful that she has decided to join us on tonight. So let me bring her on. Good evening, everyone. Share this out. Let's bring on Alaina. Hey, Alaina.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Bougie Girl is about to be a year. I think it'll be a year, I think, next week. So thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this and just saying, sharing your story. It's your turn now. We've talked to so many different people throughout the year 2020, the year of the pandemic. God has blessed us to be able to talk to so many dynamic women. So you're one of those phenomenal dynamic women, and we want to hear from you on tonight. So before we get started, I like to ask some questions. So, what did you learn in 2020, with everything that we had going on? What did you learn about yourself or what did you learn new in 2020?
Um, 2020 was a journey because at the beginning of 2020, I had decided to, um, I was the assistant leader at the salon that I was in, and I just decided to drop that position to start my photography and make that like the goal. And then the pandemic happened the next week. So, so I could have like, oh man, maybe it's not my time, but 2020 really taught me how to take things a little slower, prepare for things, and really
Right,
walk into the purpose that God had for me. So
right.
2020 was an eye
And
opener. Really
what
was.
was that purpose? Like, did you ever discover that purpose, like in this journey of 2021, 2020, or did you already know what it was and you just weren't walking in, you just wasn't walking in it?
Um, part of my purpose, of course, I always knew I was meant to be a photographer. It's always been in my heart for since I was 17 years old. But actually helping you with Bougie Girl, helping producing, knowing that, I am creative. I do have a voice and I am worth listening to.
You're worth being heard. People want to hear what you have to say, and tonight people want to hear what you have to say. So we fix to go ahead and get into it. So before we get into it, one more question. So what are you grateful for?
Whew, I'm just grateful for God's grace and ability to um just grateful that he's there with me even when I'm not there with myself. I'm just grateful for his grace over my life and the ability to start over and be okay with starting over several times.
Right. Because I'm sure so many people on here have had to start over many times. So let's talk a little bit about that. When have been some times where you have had to start over? Give us an example of a time, and how did you overcome that challenge of having to start over?
Oh my goodness. I've had to start over a lot.
Me too.
With different areas of my life, career wise, mental wise, just different areas. Oh, it's so broad. Let me think.
So let's talk about in your mental state. Mental health is so important nowadays. And so how did you have to start over in that area of your life?
Okay, so
What did that look like?
I developed a depression around the age of 16. And I realized, as I got older and stuff, that came because my sister went to college, was best friends, and that was just a door for the enemy to come in and place that feeling into my life and able to talk to me and get in my head that I'm not worthy. Nobody wants to listen to me. So mentally, I suffer with depression from the age of 16 to the age of 24 was the first stint of my depression. And I really feel like those were the years because most people develop in those years as far
Right.
as being an adult and stuff like that. So once I broke free of it, and we're going to go more into it. I know I'm skipping
Sure.
around. But once I broke free of it, I feel like I had to start over and learning how to do things that a normal teenager, and I'm in my 20s, had to do. You know what I mean? Like I had
Right.
to discover some things, and I felt like I was behind or late on some things. And even now, being 34, I don't feel like I'm 34 because I'm still learning things that maybe 27, 28-year-old might be learning because that 8 years of my life was kind of taken from me because of my depression.
So, how did you discover? I know you said from 16 to 24, that's a long time. Like you said, it was 8 years that you were did you feel like you were just surviving or just living? How did you know you were pressed or depressed? When did you discover that?
Um, it really took head when just certain things just didn't interest me anymore. Like after high school was over, it really took a head when I got an apartment with my sister in college because, like I said, my sister was my best friend, and she wanted me instead of me going to do the normal thing in the get a dorm room, and I had a full scholarship at LSU at the time. Um, I
That's
decided to get an
awesome.
apartment with my sister because she asked me to, and of course I'm gonna do anything my sister
Sure.
asks me to.
Right.
And that was, I feel like at 16 the depression was entered into me. I feel like at 18 that's when it started to really build on it because I was a straight A student, and then I got into college and going from straight A's to making C's, D's, and F's. Um,
Wow. Mhm.
and I had to work because I had an apartment, so I had to work. Um,
Right.
and it was just very stressful at that time. Like my bills was more than what I was getting paid. And then
Right.
the school, which I was failing at. And it was just a really, really rough time mentally for me
Sure.
because I saw my friends, they were on campus and having fun. And I felt like I couldn't do it because I had to work. Um,
Right.
and I wasn't doing good in school. I didn't understand how to go to my counselor for college. And I just didn't understand college
Mhm.
at all because I wasn't prepared.
Right.
Um, Even though I was top, 5% of my class, they didn't really prepare me. I grew up in Louisiana where the education is not that great. So
Hmm.
I was so unprepared for college.
So do you feel like, you said you were unprepared, even though you were the top 5 of your class, you was unprepared. So why did you always wanna go to college, or you just felt like that was an obligation?
I feel like a lot of kids just feel like you're supposed to go to high school and then after high school you go to college. That's just like what is been told to you. Like you have
Sure.
that's your path from
Right.
here to here to here. And
Right.
really, I felt like if my family always preach education, get a higher education. But what did that
Sure.
look like? Because I always been an artist, I always been a creative person. And I'm telling you, taking some of those classes in college, anthropology and stuff that really didn't interest me, it
Right.
broke me. I'm like, I'm not good at this stuff. I hate science.
Right.
I'm,
Right.
I'm failing and I don't like to fail. And this is
Sure.
heartbreaking. And I feel like that's when the enemy really came over me. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say a lot of people say depression is a chemical imbalance. Mine was more of a spiritual depression.
Spiritual battle.
Right.
Mhm.
And I don't want to scare people that might be on here and be like, what's she talking about? But it really was a spiritual depression because um, when I was at the apartment, I would be getting ready for work or go to school, and I would see the spirit go over me, and I would just lay down for the rest of the day. Like it was really a stronghold over me.
Wow. Mhm. And
Yeah.
that's really real. And so, if you all have ever experienced that, this is a lesson for everyone because somebody might be experiencing that and they might feel like, oh, I'm alone. This is awkward. Nobody else understands. So, this could be a moment where someone can be freed up because of your transparency. So, thank you so much for sharing this because I'm sure it's not a comfortable moment right now, but it's a reality. Like you said, there's a chemical depression, then we have another layer or another level, which can be a spiritual depression. Talk a little bit more about that. You said you were getting ready for work, you would see a spirit or a shadow come over you, and then it
Over me, and I would just lay down. I'll just get back down, lay down. It got really bad where me and my sister, me and my sister really close. We were fighting
yeah.
every day. I'm yelling, screaming, stomping, just out of character because people who
Mm,
growing up, I'm the sweetheart. I'm the one who
right.
pray for you, put my hands on you and pray for you and smile. And I just didn't feel like
Yeah.
smiling. I didn't feel like praying. It got to a point where I hated hearing God's name.
Mm,
Irritated my soul just to hear it.
wow.
And
Hmm.
he always still kept people coming and say, God said he loves you. And I'm like, oh my,
Right.
leave me alone. Like,
Right. You're right. You didn't want to hear it right then.
I didn't want to hear it. It got really, really bad. And then I did a semester and a half at LSU because I couldn't bear it. Like the first semester, I think I finished with a C average, which being on a scholarship, I think I was on probation at that point.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
and then my sister told me, you know what, if you fail in the class, you can just drop it. But she didn't realize I was on scholarship. You can't drop classes. You're on scholarship.
Right. You got to stay in that class.
And so I started
Sure.
dropping, and then I just stopped. I just did a semester and a half, a 5-year scholarship just down the drain, but not really. It just wasn't for me at that moment. This is what I learned
Right.
later on. It just wasn't my
Right.
time at that moment. And I did tell my parents they'll never pay for my education, and they never did.
Oh, and I want you, and that's such a good story for maybe some young ladies, young men on here watching this, trying to figure out, I really don't want to do this. What would you tell a young person that maybe, their parents are kind of pushing them to go to college and it's really not, like you said, you're artsy, you have a different path. You already know this in your spirit. You already know who you are, but then now you're taking these classes that you just, oh my goodness, oh, overwhelming. What kind of conversation do you think they should have, or what would you tell them?
The thing about it is, and people ask me, are you going to make Marley, my daughter, go to college? I'm like, if she wants to, because there's so many
Sure.
different ways to be successful. And once you find out who you are, you might not know right out of high school. You might have to take
Right.
2 years. You might not go to college right away, even though you might can go to college later on. At least
Sure.
the path that you want to go on. So I'm not saying don't go to college. I'm saying sometimes it might take a few years to figure out what path you're going and decide on, is this the right path for me to go to college right now? Now, if you in school and you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, and it takes years to get to that, then yeah, go on to college.
Sure. Right.
you're not sure. It's okay to go find a job and work and then find that thing, that passion that you love. And then, okay, now I can take classes or take a course. And there's, you don't even have to, I don't feel like you have to get a degree, but you can go to community college and take classes to help you learn in the area that you want to learn in. So
Sure.
it's just so many ways of learning and growing. And most of the billionaires out there are college dropouts.
Right. Right. And that's what Jeremy said. He's like, that's me. College is not for everybody. And so it's really important for us to really be honest with ourselves
Mhm.
because we'll, save a lot of time and money, and heartache and pain. So now you've done your year and a half of college, you're battling with,
Year and a half.
okay, a semester and a half of college.
Even a
And
whole year yet.
okay, gave you too much time. So a semester and a half. And
So
so now you're still battling with this
I'm
depression.
still
So
battling with depression. But the one of the saving graces while I was doing depression is when my first semester in college, I had an English course, and they told me find and my I already had I was already admitted into the arts program for photography because I had to submit all my stuff. So I was already admitted into
right,
that area, but I had to take 2 years of stuff that I didn't care about. And I was like, that's stupid.
right. Your prerequisites.
Right, whatever. But while I was doing that, I went to Sears Portrait Studio and I was telling them, hey, I need to write a descriptive paper of what I want to do, what I want to be, and I want to be a photographer. So can I just watch you guys? And they started asking me questions like, oh, really? You want to be what is that about? We're hiring. You most definitely could work here. And I really got hired on the
Wow.
spot right there.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
I started working at Sears Portrait Studio, and then between that semester and a half, so I did quit, but I still had a job. But in working at Sears Portrait Studio, I learned posing. I started learning the things that I wanted to learn as far as my photography. Um, so that kind of helped me be a little bit more, you know what I mean? When I was there by myself, I would take pictures and be creative. They had a book with 6 different poses that you're supposed to pose all the families in because you're supposed to do 15-minute sessions, like pose
Right.
here, goes here. I'm
Right.
bored. I'm always thinking of new things. So I was doing different poses that I would find and do. Neil's like, like, that's so creative. I'm like, yeah,
Right.
it works better for them instead of these 6 poses that y'all make us do.
Right.
So I really got into my creative space there. And then the enemy just, oh, she's really growing. So more pressure
Wow.
as far as the depression side. And then Katrina hit.
Mm. Okay.
That was even harder because
Wow. Yeah.
as it was me, my sister in this 2-bedroom apartment with our 3 dogs that we weren't supposed to have. Um, And then
Right.
Katrina hit, so all our family went to Texas. And when we came back, it was me, my sister, my grandfather, um, my uncle, and a few people. It was like 9 of us in that apartment. And the
Wow.
good thing is there was food because remember I was broke, so I didn't really have food. It was time I wasn't even eating. So I
Oh,
appreciate,
wow. Yeah.
having food, but it was
The
just
struggle.
people there all the time in your space. I was
Oh
miserable.
my I can imagine, 9 people in an apartment, Katrina, and just so much, it's kind of like remind me of what we're going through or what we just went through with the
Mhm.
COVID and different things like that. Now we're all kind of trying to come together. We're confined and, just people in your space or you're with your family in the home. So what was going on after that? So Katrina was going on, you're with your family,
They finally left, and then my mom and dad built a house in Texas, and so
right?
I was like, you know what, a whole new beginning. So we
Yeah.
packed up. Me and my sister packed up our stuff, and we moved into the brand new house in Texas.
Yes.
Another new beginning for me.
Yeah.
But because I didn't address the depression at the time, it comes with you when you don't address things
Oh
and
yeah.
handle things. Because when I was in um, Baton Rouge, my mom did send me to a counselor because they knew what I was going through, especially
Sure.
after I went off on my sister. I'm telling you, they had called the police. I stormed out, almost knocked the police off the stairs. Like it was bad.
Oh wow. Little
uh,
Alaina knocking down police officers. Goodness.
almost, I kind of like brush past, I didn't get in trouble. But I went to a counselor and I was like, this ain't for me. because she was like irritating. Oh, and how did that make you feel? And oh, you were such a sad child. I'm like, I didn't have a sad childhood. I mean, I got bullied, but a lot of people get bullied. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I didn't
It
like.
wasn't as bad as they made it seem, right?
No, I don't like people patronizing. Like, give it to me
Sure.
straight. Tell me this, this, and this. Let me do this, this, and this.
Right.
Don't just coddle me. I don't like being coddled. So that didn't work. Therapy or
Okay.
counselor. I
Or
don't think
maybe that particular counselor didn't work.
she didn't work. And
Yeah.
I'm not wasting my mama money because I think she was paying her like $100 a session or something. I'm like, don't get
Right.
more because she's horrible. Maybe she wasn't, but I didn't click with
It
her.
just wasn't your time to, it wasn't time yet. So it's time to move on to something else.
Yes. So when I moved to Texas, I had transferred from that Sears to another Sears, and I realized that they were paying all the other girls more than me because Texas paid a little higher, but they didn't change my pay.
Wow.
So when I asked about it, it was like they didn't say anything. So I did what I did before. I wrote a same day notice. I never did 2 week.
She's like, I'm giving you a 2-day notice. Today I'm leaving.
Right, exactly. So I wrote a resignation letter and I left that Sears Portrait Studio and it was in a mall. So I walked downstairs and then they had another studio called Studio One to One. I applied that day. The next day I got a call, I got the job. So this
Wow.
is how God, he always
Yeah. Just steady, you're steady flowing in your purpose. He's steady opening doors for you, sure.
yes. And I feel like at Studio One to One. So this is I'm telling you my depression and how I developed as a photographer.
Yes.
So
So
at Studio One to One, they asked me to make more money if you did hair and makeup, if you did sales, if you did photography, you got more commission. I never did hair, never did makeup, not a day in my life, but I was like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. I had them white people orange. I'm sorry. Feel bad because you had to mix the colors. I feel like I could do it now, but thinking about it, I'm like, ooh. Hmm.
yeah, I mean, back then, I mean, like you said, you never done it before, right? So
Hair at that point, I never did hair,
on the
especially
job training.
on a job training. They didn't know that. They don't just thought I knew because I was at the time I was watching Tyra tips. I was watching stuff to help me figure it out. Um,
Right.
um, so I started doing Studio One to One, and there I started learning lighting with my photography because it was different than Sears. This one
Sure.
is more independent. You had to do your settings and you had to do your lighting and stuff. So that's something. So I learned posing at Sears, and then I learned lighting and stuff at Studio One to One, and really how to do sales. Um,
Right.
I did sales at Sears, but it wasn't the same. Studio One to One, they packages can go up there, $1,400 packages,
So it's like another level.
packages, yeah.
Right.
So I worked there for a while, and in that time we're working there, me and my mom had a little argument.
A little a tiff between mother and daughter. I'm familiar.
No. And so she went to work that day, and that day I moved out, found an apartment, and I moved my stuff. So when she
She's
came,
like,
I was gone.
you do not, you know what? That's what I do hear about you, the consistency of how you just can get up and move on. Like you don't let it settle. You don't sit there and kind of ponder on it. You're like, I don't like this. Okay, I'm leaving. You're not working. I'm leaving.
I definitely can do that, but I have to learn. I have to be patient and stuff. I have to sit and stuff a little bit longer because when they get on, I'm like, I'm gone. Okay. Um, so when I got into that apartment, I feel like that when the enemy are like, okay, she's alone now. Now, granted, I have
Mm,
a dog, but
yeah.
the enemy was like, okay, she's alone. I got her now. Right.
Mm,
So that was when I was in my house with my mom, yeah, I was having down and up time, but it wasn't really severe, not as much as when I got into my apartment alone. And that's when
sure.
it really was, because I wasn't praying like I shouldn't been. The space wasn't where it should have been. So
Sure. The atmosphere.
the atmosphere, right. So there is just it got crazy.
Oh,
I remember my dog used to just lay on my chest and bark at the corner
mhm.
of my bed at night, and I was like, be quiet, Daisy, push her outside. And again, later on in life, I'm like, she was seeing
She
something
saw something,
that
right?
protecting me. So she was like my protector. She was protecting me. But while I was at that apartment, I quit the job at Studio 121 because another thing is I was in Texas, and I'm not saying they're racist, but they do some things. Um,
Okay.
realized at Studio 121, everybody that wasn't my skin color was getting raises and was able to make more money, and they will create positions for them to make
Wow.
more money. Even though I was a key holder, I was making the most sales. I was doing everything a manager should do, but wasn't getting paid for it. Um,
Wow.
and I put in my 2 weeks notice. I actually put in a 2 weeks notice for this one.
Not the 2 day notice, like today I'm leaving.
Right, right. Because I liked the job. I loved it because
Yeah.
what I wanted to do. I was learning, I was growing, and they knew they had a good person, right?
Right.
Just it was me and another black girl, but every time they hired somebody else that wasn't black, they got a raise or some kind of position.
Oh,
Um
wow. Mhm.
I believe she left before me, and started working for this company. And then I put my 2 weeks notice in, and the day that I was supposed to, my last two weeks, she said, "Hey, well, Easter's about to come up, and I would hate for you to leave and miss out on the money because we're about to make a lot of money." And I was like, "Well, it's my last day. I just came in." She was like, "Well, it don't make sense for you to be here and take other people's money, so you can just leave now." So she kind of fired me on the spot.
Wow. Wow.
Went to my car and I bawled out crying because I'm like, I was crying and I was mad. I was like, man, I should have
Sure.
oh, I should have stayed and stood up for myself. But then I was crying
Right.
fireman. I was crying because I let somebody else take advantage of me. So
Right. Right, so all these emotions are going on in your head, you're just
going
dealing
on,
with it.
right, going
Yeah.
ahead and
Were
and
you
then
still dealing with depression at this time? Were you still battling?
this was around age 19.
Okay.
I was 19.
Wow. So you were still deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, and some days is better than the others, with my depression.
So
Um,
how did you handle that? I mean, you stopped going to counseling, right?
mhm.
You're working and I mean, so how did you handle that? You just kind of like dealt with it, you just accepted it for what it was, and you just kind of
wasn't really thinking about it at this point. It wasn't as strong as it, time went on. It just got worse.
intensified, right?
Right.
Hmm.
So, I ended up working for another company, photography company, where I was now a sales rep. So I would go
Right.
to homes. They would go and take the pictures of the babies. I would go and sell the portraits. Again,
Hmm.
God is good.
Right.
God is showing me how
Different layers.
different layers, different companies are ran. Um,
Right.
I started working for there, and then at some point they let me actually do the photography and then go sell. Nobody else got a chance to do that but me.
Right.
People
Because
love
they
it.
knew you were talented, right?
Right. But at the time, again, being 19 and stupid,
I mean, you didn't know.
I didn't know. Like one week I would do $2,000 in sales, and that would be 2,000 in my pocket, and then the next week it would be $200. So that up and down with somebody with depression, it wasn't good. I felt like I can't do this. I can't do this. So I only worked that job for 3 months because it was so up and down. But then when I
Mm,
look back in those 3 months, I made $12,000.
wow. Wow. But I mean, if you look at it now that you're older and more mature, it's like, wow, I was doing really good. But then if you don't know how to manage your money, you're not really understanding that it's like going to be an up and down business.
Right.
It
Because
can like,
up and down sales.
right.
And
That's what sells.
I was
Yeah.
it.
Right. And then I'm sure that played a lot on your self-esteem. Like, like you said, I'm not good enough, especially when you had a $2,000 week and then a $200 week. It's like, wow, can I do this? Right.
And I was in a place in Texas and I started noticing, I'm like, okay, people not gonna buy from me because I'm black. And it was just a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
in my head, the enemy,
Sure. Just
you know,
talking to you. Yeah.
talking to
Making you. So
make me
as
feel
you're right. So you're going on, your career, right? So you're learning, you're growing. God is putting different layers on who you are, showing you the different levels of your photography and your purpose. So
mhm,
now, you're 19. So as you're getting older, so let's go a bit further into as your depression intensifies, you're like 22 years old. What was
yeah.
going on around that time?
So around that time I ended up after I left that job, I ended up going and working for a collection agency. And I stayed there for 5 years. I did good.
Okay. Because it was probably consistent.
But in that moment, in those 5 years, it really got bad because I wasn't doing my photography. So my creative
Mm.
side, so that's something else that laid heavy on me. I wasn't in my purpose. That made me said I would lay down for days at a time, no calls, no shows. I should have been fired from that job.
Oh, did they
Yeah,
know you were battling depression? Did they know about it?
no,
Because I'm
no,
thinking a lot of times when companies know you have something going on, they'll be willing to work with you. But like you said, I guess by the grace of God, you just kept that job even though you weren't coming going to work.
yeah, no calls, no shows. But in that job, um, I had made friendships. One was a friendship that was not good for me. Did things that I shouldn't have been doing as a Christian and all this other kind of stuff. Just
Right.
and stuff. Just not
Sure.
being good. And then that person just wasn't a good person in my life. Again, another person that used me, and abused my niceness and my kindness and my so eagerness to be accepted and wanted.
Mm. So did
So
you battle with with the depression on top of that you had a layer of like low self-esteem? Did you battle with like rejection and different things like that or
because everybody wants to be, you know what I mean, like
accepted
accepted. Yeah. And of course, going to the clubs, I never felt
like you belonged?
comfortable. Yeah. I never felt
Yeah,
comfortable. I was just there
sure.
because that's what she liked to do. And, it was just fun for the moment. But then I met this group of friends. After I started hanging out with them, it's kind of put a light onto the other person because it was a big thing where, um, she used and abused me. And then it was a big blowout where she called me
Mm,
I was nothing but the devil. She called my mom and said all this kind of mean stuff about me. And she had other people say
wow.
I'm wrong and I'm not a good friend and all this stuff, just tearing me down more. They don't know what.
Wow.
And I told this girl that I suffer with depression. She was like, that don't make sense. You shouldn't have depression because you grew up in a two-family household and you grew up Christian. So that you're not depressed. You're just faking it. Like just made me feel
Wow.
my feelings and what I was going through was invalid.
And
Um,
that's a large misconception, a huge misconception about depression that your life has to be in the shambles or you grew up in poverty or with one parent or on drugs for you to experience depression. There are people who are millionaires. We know celebrities who've committed suicide because of depression. So
Look at Robert
depression doesn't,
Williams. He was a comedian.
right.
He made people
And
laugh, and he was not happy himself. So,
right. So
yeah.
that's a large misconception. And so, as we continue to go on with this, if you all have not shared this out, please share this out as we continue to talk to Alaina Stevens about her journey, her story. We're talking about depression. And if you have any questions for her, please put them in the comments. Thank you all so much. Good evening, Karen. Thank you all. Share this out because we want as many people to hear this as possible because we know it's going to be a blessing to somebody. So thank you all so much for joining us. So, Alaina, so now you have this new group of friends. You find out one is not really the best fit for you. So
um,
what's going on as we go
um,
on?
once that friendship, because I always feel like God always those people end up leaving me. And I had my sister was like, I don't like her. Get away from her. I'm like, no, because I always try to see the good in people, right?
Right.
I'm like, no, she's a good person. She just misunderstood and
Right.
she was like,
Yeah. No, ma'am.
no.
Right. I mean, your sister was trying to have your back and you didn't want to listen. Sometimes we don't want to hear what other people are saying because, like you said, you were looking for the good in her and you didn't want to think that she was not a good person. So,
Right. So after that all happened, I started hanging out with this group of friends, and these I can till this day they showed me how it is to be friends. And when I
mm,
first started hanging out with them, I'm like, ain't no way people are this nice and this genuine. Like I was up in arms. Like I was like, they're so phony. Nobody is this
wow.
like why are they accepting me like this? Like I've never
Right.
fully accepted for everything that I was. I was a little bit goofy. They always
Right.
thought I was a little weird and stuff like that. That's because I was bowing and they could see this wall. And I remember one day
Yeah.
they took me to this room and we all worked at this collection agency. They hated when we all worked together. Right. We
Because when
all
you get together, I'm sure y'all was acting up.
they left off we all left off the floor so we can go in this room and they could talk to me. Just a disconnect, just not working.
Right.
And they said, Alaina, we know you're a good person. And for some reason, you got this wall up and you used this because I was very sarcastic. And it was like, you use this sarcasm and it's very off putting. But we know that it's because
Defense mechanism.
it's a defense mechanism. And it was like, and we see you're a good person. We love hanging out with you, but you gotta work on yourself. And I'm like, I was in tears because nobody ever cared enough to sit me down and tell me about myself.
Wow.
Yeah, because
Wow.
I used defense mechanism. I'm like, I was quick and sharp. Don't, right?
Don't come for me because I got something for you.
Right.
Right. And so many people use that sarcasm or being passive aggressive and different things like as a defense mechanism, because they're hurting.
Mhm.
So, what would you tell somebody who do you feel like that's a sign of some type of mental breakdown or mental illness or mental struggle when people do that?
It's a like I said, it's a wall. It's something I'm going to hurt you before you hurt me because I know it's coming.
Right.
I'm gonna be quicker than you. I'm gonna either talk about myself before you talk about me, or I'm gonna talk
Mm,
about you before you can say anything to me. Like I'm going to
wow.
do it first because I know
Right.
because what I've experienced in the past, I know it's coming. So yeah, it's a defense mechanism.
For sure. And so now you're 24 years old. You said because you had that season, right? That
Mhm.
stint, that 8 years. So where did the breakthrough come, or how did the breakthrough come about?
So it got really bad. Like it got to the point where I was fighting this, I would say demon or this spirit
Spirit.
in my sleep. Like
Mm,
I couldn't, every time I was dreaming, the only time I can wake up is say the name Jesus. And I know this because, they said, say the name Jesus and,
right. Right.
so that's
Hmm.
the only way I could wake up from these nightmares and these attacks. And it got to the point where one day I'm sleeping and this gum like substance started filling my mouth up because they didn't want
Wow.
me to say the name. So I'm
Wow.
pulling and yanking, trying to get enough to say it, to say Jesus, because I'm getting attacked in my sleep.
Wow.
I'm fighting for my life in my sleep.
Mm,
And by the time I say Jesus, I got enough of the whole of this, whatever is filling my mouth up, out, I wake up. And when I say all my jaws was hurting, all my hands was hurting, my body was aching.
like
And
you were in a physical fight.
I was in a physical fight. I was in a physical fight for my life, and I had enough. I couldn't deal with it. I think around that time, I wrote my mom a letter. I text my family and friends. I shut my phone off, and I just started driving. Nobody could
Mm.
touch with me, nothing. And I'm like, as I'm driving, I don't think I was gone that long.
Where were you going?
Don't know.
Mm.
I just know that I hated that my family saw me going through this and, I'm putting them down. This, I didn't know. This is what's in my head. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Nobody wants to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I didn't want to kill myself, but I was like, if I get in an accident and die, whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not like you intentionally, killed yourself. Something just happened to you.
right.
Right.
Um, so I just started driving. I started thinking, I'm like, I can't do this to my mama. I can't do this to my family. I can't do
Sure.
this because I know they love me.
Sure.
It's not fair for them. So I have to figure out how to deal with this. I have to get back in a church. I have to get back into the word. I have to, align myself in order
Wow.
to do better because at one point I did start taking medication. That didn't work.
Right.
It
Right.
stopped thoughts, but it didn't help me move.
Sure.
Um, so I just decided that enough was enough, and I just had to be stronger than whatever this spirit is trying to keep me down. And that was at 24. In that year, I decided to move to Baltimore, and my sister helped me save enough money. So at 25, I turned 25 on the 16th, and on the 25th, I moved up here. And
So before you moved, though, you said you were driving. So what happened between the time that you decided to turn off your phone, you're driving, you're saying, you know what, then you started thinking. So you're driving, right? What was going on? Did you start praying? Did you go stop at a church? What was that big turnaround for
I was
you?
just I was just driving and thinking about my family and thinking how unfair it was to them if I did something or left them feel been more hurtful to them than me running away.
So
And
what would you so what would you tell someone who's battling depression and they're at their wits end, and suicide is not an option. Suicide is not an answer. What would you say to someone to how to help them to really just I guess you could say break free from what they're dealing with?
a lot of times is you know that there's somebody who love you. And I know my sister told me this earlier this week. She was like, the enemy, the devil have no new tricks. He's going to say the same things. And once I started talking to other people who had depression, I'm like, how are they going through the same things? We have so different lives, but they feel the same way I feel. So it's just a trick of the enemy. And just talking to other people and knowing that, you know, I'm not alone and I'm not crazy.
Right, right.
And, just letting your family know where you're at
Mhm.
so they can be there for you.
So it sounds like the best thing is not to isolate yourself, not to be alone when you know you're having these feelings, even though you might be, you know, having some emotional outbursts, you need to be around other people.
Yes, you have to be around other people. You have to know that you're at a point where if you feel like you don't want to be by yourself, I mean, if you want to be by yourself and all these negative thoughts, you have to be willing to get up and say, no, I need to talk to somebody, whether it be a friend, a family member, or find a counselor. Like you have to get up and talk to somebody because most of those thoughts, it's just the enemy just trying to keep you down and keep you from your purpose in this life.
That's so true. And that's so powerful that you said that. And it's so important as well to be around people that, like you said, someone finally said something to you. Like they actually spoke truth to you. Like, hey, Alaina, this is what we see is going on in you. And then that kind of makes you to start thinking, like, okay, wow, that's true. I have been doing this. I have been speaking out of term. I have been being someone that is not myself, out of character. So now you've done this, your sister helped you save money.
Mhm.
So from Texas you drive to Baltimore. Did you have any family there? Did you know anybody there? What
No,
made you choose
I,
Baltimore?
I just knew one person. One of my brother-in-law friends was up here that I met at their wedding. That's the only person I knew, and I really didn't know him because once I got up here, I didn't see him at all.
Okay.
So I was
Okay.
by myself, and it was another time starting over again.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
start over. I ended up getting a job at the place that I was doing a sales rep. They had
Hmm.
a branch up here. So I ended up doing that for a few months. But in that moment, and a lot of people ask me, why did you move to Baltimore? And I
Right.
was like, I was too scared to move to New York. And I felt Baltimore was central to like DC, New York. You know, there's a lot of places
Right.
you can get to
To
with the
that metroplex area,
yeah.
right? The D.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I really needed to be in the place because my brother was married, having kids. My sister was at the point married, having kids, and I was by myself. And I felt like I was just existing. So I felt like I needed to be in a place where it's just me and God, and whatever I had to do to grow and learn, I had to be there. And I feel like if I stayed in Texas, I would just my family would be like like not a stronghold, but like
A crutch.
a crutch for me because I can always go to my family. But if I put myself in a position where I couldn't just run to mommy, I couldn't just run to daddy, I had to trust God and what He had for me. So I had to put myself in a place like that. And I never been nowhere where they had all four seasons. So that first year, like seeing the colors and the flowers bloom, that was
That was amazing for you.
Right.
Do you feel like that helped you with your healing, or do you feel like you was already healed by it? Because I know you're saying it's important. We just mentioned it was how important it is to be around other people when you're going through depression, when you're battling with that. But then you all of a sudden decided to just leave your family with nobody. But like you said, it's just you and God. I mean, do you feel like you were strong enough to do that, or you just felt like, tell us more about that?
At that point, I felt like it was just something that I needed to do.
For
Um,
your healing, or just to kind of get away from the dependency?
get away from the dependency. I wasn't really thinking about my healing at the time because at that point I was thinking freely. I was doing well.
You was doing better. Hmm.
Yeah. At times I would see the spirit, and it was like you're like half awake,
Hmm.
and it's like I always tell it's almost like a spider just forming in the corner, and then when I came to, it kind of away. So it always loomed.
Hmm.
It always loomed.
So what did you do in those moments?
But
With
because I feel like how they say, when you cast out certain spirits and you fill in with the good, you know what I mean?
replaced it, like you cast it out and then you replace it with.
I had all these. It had no space in my spirit
That's
because I
good.
was already filled, and I not essentially healed myself, but I filled myself with good and God, and the good things.
What
Um,
what do you mean by that, good things? What do you mean?
with courage, with uh,
Mhm.
just joy, and just things that made me happy. Good
So
spirits,
that's a good
yeah,
point.
spirits have good spirits. I just feel like I filled myself with good energy. Yes.
Okay. So basically, in order, and that's a good point. I just wanted to just point out, if someone is battling with depression, how you have to get into that space, like you said, calling on Jesus, you know, um, start maybe casting down those spirits, that negativity, that energy, and then start replacing it with love and joy and peace, and, getting into God's word and just being able to, because He's the master healer, right? He's the master physician. And I think that's pretty much a lot of times the only way we're going to have any type of total and complete deliverance and healing is when we decide to go ahead and embrace,
Yeah.
God's love and who He is, in order to be able to walk in freedom.
Yeah. You gotta put your armor on. And I had to
You
put
have.
my armor on.
Right. And so that's wisdom, right? You have to recognize you needed God in order to overcome, what you were dealing with. So now you're in Baltimore. You're feeling a lot better. You're feeling like you're free. So what's going on with you in Baltimore? What's happening right now?
So I get to Baltimore. I started working for the company again, selling pictures. And that's how I really learned the city, because it kind of put me everywhere because I was going to different areas.
Right.
Met this guy. He was a gay guy, gay couple. Really, a blessing in my life at the time. But he was like, "Hey, we don't have to work for them. I have the money. You have the equipment and the stuff. So let's go ahead and start our own business."
Wow.
It didn't work out like that.
She's like, it sounds good, but it didn't work out like that. Okay. Oh no, it sounded like I was ready for the success story. I was like, okay, this sounds like it's promising. Okay.
No, it didn't work out like that. But
Okay.
they ended up being really good friends for me. They ended up taking, because I had my dog. I brought my dog up here, but they ended up taking my dog because, look, I was struggling financially. So it was either I'm eating or the dog eating. Or I'm gonna eat the
All
dog.
right.
Either one of
We don't
those.
want to eat the dog.
Right. So I had to give my dog to them. They took good care of her. She passed away last year. They
Oh.
did give good
Mhm.
care of her. She got nice and fat, so she
She
was
had a good life.
yeah, because she was skinny when she was with me. She was getting one cup. Okay, one cup. But I had to learn, like in that season of not knowing where my next meal was gonna come from. I had to sit down and say, look, what is the lesson in it? Like, um, if this is what I'm supposed to do, is this my journey? God, what is my lesson in it? Like, what are you
Right.
teaching me in these moments? And I have to
Right.
tell myself that constantly, okay, or take myself back so I won't get frustrated, so I won't get in a place where I get low. I have to ask God, what what is the lesson? What is the lesson?
Right.
Homes instead of why me? Why am I going through this? Okay, God, what are you teaching me? How do I
Sure.
get to that next season in my life? Because I'm not going to get to that next season if I'm still
Right. That,
staying
right.
with.
So did right. So now that you're here, let's, fast forward a little bit
Mhm.
to now you're in Baltimore. You're struggling a little bit, but then you're still, you're still moving, you're still moving. So
Mhm.
what's going on in your life, after about a year you've been there? What's going on at that time?
Let's see. In 2000, that was 2012. I went to cosmetology school at the end of 2012. I
Okay.
cosmetology school um in the 2012
Was that
around.
something you felt like you needed to do, or you just
It
somebody
was
suggested it?
so this is because I'm a photographer. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do my photography thing, but I feel like I needed skills because every time I tried to set up a session, um, my makeup artist and my hairstylist would just
No
disappear.
show.
Myself,
Wow.
like, I'm gonna invest in myself. I'm gonna go to this cosmetology school. I'm gonna learn
That's
how to
good.
do hair. I'm never gonna be behind a chair. Right. This is what I'm telling myself. I'm never gonna be
Yeah.
behind a chair. I'm gonna just get the education and learn so I can when I build my company, I'll be able to when I work for magazines, I really wanted to work for magazines, still want to work for magazines.
Yes.
When they come to my company, they can get everything. Do everything,
Right.
hair and makeup and the
Sure.
photography, the editing, whatever I wanted to be able to do it all. So I
Right.
had to invest myself to learn those things, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I went to hair school to do that. Still struggling, still didn't have time to actually shoot anything. Um, and in that moment, I did have a breakdown moment because I was crying in my car one day. I was like, okay, God, why am I here? And
Yeah.
I said, I want to do my photography, but I don't have the right equipment. I want to do this, but I don't have this. I don't have enough. And then I heard
Right.
the first time I heard the voice of God say, I've given you everything you need. And when I said I started bawling, that's how I know
Yeah.
like you have everything that you need. You have everything.
Yeah.
Because remember,
Wow.
the first part of my life, he showed me how to build a business and how to do different things with photography. Because I
Right.
worked with not just those companies, but at one point I worked for another company that I was doing portraits in schools and doing commencement portraits for law schools and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
So you're steady building on your skills.
not even thinking about it.
Right.
Just,
Right.
working in my field.
Right.
Doing sales and doing all this kind of stuff, seeing how
Right.
the money works and stuff like that. And, you know, he's really given me everything I need. And it took years. So it's like college because it took years to learn these things.
Right. On the job training, everything that you need, open doors, right, without you having to spend the money.
Right. But then I felt it. I was like, okay, now I got my license, but I still have to build my skill up. Like, yeah, I'm licensed, but I still don't know how to do hair efficiently. So I started working for the company I actually work for now, Hair Cuttery. Um, and I got there barely, still not making money because it was a request salon. So when I got there, everybody who came in the door was a request for somebody else. I would do like
Right.
2 haircuts, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna build. I'm gonna figure this out. So I actually learned how to build my book, and after about a year and a half in, I was assistant manager, and I was top 3 stylist, making more money
Wow.
than a stylist that's been there for years. When I say years, I meant like 12 and more, like years.
Eh, wow.
I built my name in that area. People's like, "Oh yeah, Alaina's the natural stylist in this area," and it was just sending people to me. Like I was just
That's awesome. How
rolling.
God was open doors for you.
Hmm. Yes. That's what Brandy said. Then she met me. Yes, that's what I'm
Yeah.
Brandy.
Yes, Brandy's like, yes, she met
And
me then.
one of
So
the people that God sent to me, that I can literally have deep conversations with, and she's
that's
from New
good.
Orleans. So he always send me somebody that's familiar to me. So she's one of the people
Yeah.
she know. That's
Yeah. That's so awesome. And if you are just now joining us, I'm speaking with Alaina Stevens. She's sharing her journey, her story, and just helping us, just talking us through it, what she's been through. And I hope this is blessing you. I hope it's helping someone out there. And tonight we're talking about depression and just overcoming the challenges of life.
Yeah,
Just being able, like you said, starting over several times and, overcoming the battle of depression and different things that you were dealing with as a young lady, learning who she is and coming into your own. So
yeah.
now you're working at this place. You built this name for yourself.
Thank
And
you.
so,
Did not do first.
right.
I
So
met,
what's
I didn't say, but in 2012, I started dating my now husband that December.
okay.
So I've been
Okay.
with him since that December. And then so around when Marty was born, 2017. So I guess 2016, that's when I got pregnant. And then we decided to get married. So in December, I got married. In January, I turned 30. And in that February, I had Marley. So three big life events happened back to back. And then
Right.
surprise, postpartum depression, now a different kind of depression entered the room.
Wow. Wow. So how did you handle that? Like you have a husband like pretty much there to you feel like maybe it's a support now. You're not alone doing all of this. How did you handle the post part of depression?
I actually didn't realize it was
Mm,
happening until Marley was like 18 months old.
wow. So when did you discover that this is what was going on with you?
Because my energy started getting lower. I didn't want to start getting out of bed. Um, I just stopped having interest in like the things that I love, right?
Right.
Um, Getting mad at my husband for no reason. He didn't understand it because he still don't understand the depression and what it goes through. And I printed him out like stuff and say, "Look, this is what I'm going through." But
Right.
when somebody haven't been through it, they don't understand.
It's just hard, right?
Yeah.
And
So
it's
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was going to say it's important for them to those that are close to you to learn more about it so they can support you through that battle, that journey that you're dealing with, so they know how to best effectively help you through that period.
Right.
So,
And that's the thing too that I learned. Like I was in it, I was trying to get him to understand and try to get him to help me through it. But at the end
right.
of the day, I had to be the one to help myself. I had
Mhm.
to take accountability for
Right.
I know what it is now that I recognize it because I ended up talking to another lady and she was like, "No, at 18 months you can develop postpartum." So I
Hmm.
know what it was.
Okay.
I needed to understand and figure out how I can get over this form of depression. Because so now this is
Right.
a chemical imbalance. It was not a spiritual.
Right. Right. So now it's something else. Right.
Thank you, Brandy. She said she stopped taking care of herself. So one of the people that I had a lot of conversations with. I did. I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped, and I'm still not that I'm going through the depression part. I'm still trying to rebuild myself, and take care of myself and taking myself accountable for things that I need to do
Right.
for my family and for me.
And I think that's a journey and that's a lifelong process and journey for all of us that we're constantly learning ourselves, learning the new Alaina as you get older, as you become, like you said, you're 34. When you're 35, that might be a new level of Alaina. Now I'm learning the new me and how do I adjust? Your daughter's getting older. You're now married a little bit longer. So I think that's a journey and a process that we all need to be mindful of and just all need to be cognizant of, in order to be our best selves. So, what would you like to leave the audience with, or what would you like to encourage them with on tonight, as far as this journey that you've experienced, everything that you've gone through, and now tell us where are you right now? Like,
Right
what's
now,
going on with you right now?
last year that I decided to uh, take the leap into my photography finally after what from 17 to 34 to 30
Yeah.
16 years. I'm like, I'm gonna take this thing serious. So last year, around the time we were still doing Bougie Girl, I was doing Bougie Girl with you, helping you produce and stuff like that. It took off, and I did around
Hmm.
80 sessions between June and December, but it burnt me out because I was doing Groupon.
Right.
I was working more than I was making money, right? And I learned in that I was like, okay, I know I'm worth more than this.
Right.
God told me that I'm worth more than this, and
Right.
I cannot keep running it. So I did cancel the Groupon because I'm not doing no more
Good.
Groupon. Not
Good.
not working an hour and doing 2 hours of editing for $22. That's
Right.
not what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and in that, and me realizing, okay, I'm thankful for those 80 sessions because that reassured me that I'm really good at this. I'm really talented. And I'm really gifted.
Right.
Um, but I'm worth more than what people are
Right.
willing to pay me. And then in
Right.
this year, I'm learning to open my mouth and let people know, hey, I'm not. No, if you don't want to pay my prices, I'm not your photographer.
Right. I'm not the one for you. Right.
Right. And in that, God sent me on my birthday this year. My husband, he was cutting one of our friends' father's hair. He ended up being a master photographer. He ended up being a photographer who shot Will and Jada's wedding. And so he introduced me to the Professional Photographers Association, um,
Nice.
Professional Photographers of America, one of those. So I was
Yeah.
able to, now I'm a part of that. I
That
was
is
able
so awesome.
to be a part of a conference that they had and learn and grow and kind of understand how to make my money work for me or make my photography work for me financially. Still
Right.
in that moment because I'm still building and trying to figure out what my brand is going to be. And then doing hair, I met another photographer. She's one of my stylists, but she's an awesome photographer, and she's going to let me
Wow.
go on shoots with her. She talked to me about certain things that I can do. I
Hmm.
was telling her about some of the things and she looked at my work. She was like, "Oh no," she said, "You're able to charge a lot more. Like, don't charge
Right.
less than this." So he's sending people in my life to encourage me,
Yeah.
and I'm looking for now a mentor. Because at first I was like, I'm too old for a mentor. I'm 34. Like,
No, you're not.
I'm not. So
Yeah.
this year I am opening myself up for new things in my photography and learning and growing. And I'm going to take my time. Like, I don't have to do 80 sessions in a year. If I could do 40 sessions this year or 30 sessions or 50 sessions, but let them be quality and I can grow and learn and actually make
Right.
what I want, that's good enough.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And give myself a little, be patient with myself and learning and growing. So that's where I'm at now.
You know what? What a blessing and what an awesome story of overcoming. And so, what would you like to share with the audience on tonight? Like words of encouragement, last minute words of encouragement that you would like to share with someone who maybe be going through what you've gone through and, just need someone else to say, you know what? I've been there. What would you say?
Just again, be patient with yourself. Find time to learn and grow, and know that it's okay to go to somebody and talk to someone. Um, if it's not a friend or family, it's a find a counselor there. If
That
you have
fits.
insurance, go to several
Mhm.
counselors that actually fit, not to somebody who patronizes you, but somebody who actually fits.
Right. Right.
And also, like, just know that we're all here for a reason. We all have a purpose. Find out what your purpose is and move in that. It is not going to be easy. They're going to have hard times. You're going to have your ups and downs. But if you're walking in your purpose, God is going to open doors for you to walk and go into those purposes. And don't let fear stop you from getting to what God has for you. And another thing I'm going to say is this,
Yeah.
and this is my mantra for the year, other than self accountability, is
Right.
um, declaration
Mhm.
plus movement equals manifestation. So declare,
That's good.
move towards it, and then manifest the things that God has for you.
You know what? That is so awesome. And I love declarations. Declarations are such a powerful tool, because the word says that our tongue is like a pen of a ready writer. We
Mm.
can write the life that we want with our tongue, with our mouth. So it's so important, not like you said, not only to just say it, but start moving in that direction, start moving in the direction that God has for you. And if you don't know what that is, ask him for wisdom. He said he would give us wisdom. Commit your plans unto the Lord and he will direct your path.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like he has been doing that for you. I am so
Yeah.
proud of you,
Spoke
Alaina. I'm
spoke
super excited.
with you. He spoke to me the other day because when I was at work and I was working, and the bottom drawer of my station just kept opening. I kept closing. It kept opening. Kept closing. And then I heard, "I keep opening doors for you, but you keep shutting them."
Uh-oh,
So
you
I
better preach on tonight.
need to
Right. Did y'all hear that? Guys keep
So
opening doors,
God
but you keep
opened doors
closing
for you,
them.
but He opened doors for me, but because of fear,
Mm,
I shut the door because I'm not ready.
wow.
I'm not it. I'm not, that's not where I'm supposed to be right now. But if God telling you that's where you need to be at, God gave us all ideas. Like if God, you almost shut the door on Bougie Girl because of fear. And then
I
you,
did.
because of my pushy mommy and me.
Look, I almost shut the door on Bougie Girl because again, fear, right? You know, when you're fearful, but guess what? Like you said, God placed you in my life, your mom in my life to say, no, you can do this.
So pushy. I can't say my mama, I'm pushy too. And I'm mean.
You are pushy. And so, yes, I mean, and so, but that is such a testament that God brings people into our lives to push us out of our comfort zone, right? To push us out of the place of comfort, to push us out of the place where we feel complacent, right?
Mm,
We're stagnant, or we just feel like, we just need somebody to walk alongside of us for a time because we are uncomfortable because this is new for us, right? Me being on social media every week is new to me. Wow, I didn't think I was good enough. I had it in me, but God told me the same thing He told you. I placed everything you need in you to
mhm.
do what I have called you to do, which is encourage, inspire, uplift. And that's why the book is out. That's why you're doing your photography. That's why you're saying no more Groupons, because we're discovering our worth,
Yeah,
right? We're discovering who we are.
yeah,
And I'm 10 years older than you, a little bit more than that. But guess what? I need a mentor. I
yeah.
need some encouragement. I had to start over a couple of times. So this story is for all of us. Everyone who's listening and watching, you may have to start over 2 or 3 times, but guess what? It's okay.
It's okay.
If you don't stop, you're going to keep going.
Yeah.
So, Alaina, I'm super proud of you,
Thank you.
super thankful that you're on here. And again, I always tell you when you come to Dallas, my photo shoot is next. So
Mhm.
I'm super excited to see you. And you guys, we never met in person. We never met in person. We've been working together. We've worked together for almost a year, never met in person. But that's what God does. He brings people into your life that you may not even meet for a time, but you know what? They make an impact. And I
Yes.
just want to let you know you've made an impact in my life. I'm super grateful for your story. Your testimony has blessed me. I hope it's blessed those on tonight. I hope you guys are blessed. And I also, you know, what is your website, or do you want to share your website or your Facebook so people can, you know, come get some excuse me, get some pictures made? What is your website?
AlainaMachon.com, which I'm about
Mm.
to revamp again for like the third time this year.
Alaina, M-U what?
MICHAUN
Chaun.
.com.
Righty. Y'all, look. See if this is right. Is that right?
Yeah.
That is her website. If you
All my social media. Alaina Machon Photography is Instagram. Alaina Machon Photography is Facebook. You can look me up on just Alaina Machon. Just follow me on my regular pages because I post stuff of my daughter and me.
yes, and you know what, those pictures you did for her birthday were incredible. I was like, oh my goodness. And she's such a natural model. Like, oh my goodness, she just was ready for the camera. So you all look at her pictures on Instagram and Facebook. She's an amazing photographer.
I had to
And her
gaslight her to get those pictures. Okay.
I mean, she did such a great job, but you know what? And I'm super proud of you. But I want to announce something before we end. If you all want to sow a seed, there is the Cash App, as we continue to move forward to bring you content like this to uplift, encourage, and empower you, inspire you if you're dealing with depression or if you're dealing with any type of setback, divorce, whatever. Every week, we're going to come on here with something, with a guest to encourage you. Evening with the King, we're going to get a man's perspective. And next week, we're going to talk with Black men and their mental health and depression and their emotions. So you all don't want to miss that as we gather a few Black men together to talk about depression, to talk about their emotions. So this is just a segue into that. And also, we have a conference coming up from Broken to Bougie. This is the book that I have written, and we're having a virtual encounter. So I would love for you all to go to Eventbrite and register for this amazing event. This is the link to the event. If you want to register, please register. It's going to be a blessing. You know, such amazing speakers that we have coming. You know, we have Bishop Blakes and Pastor Demetrius Lewis, and we have Minister Shayna Rattler. We also have the breakthrough strategist, Lakeisha Dixon. So super excited about what God is doing in all of our lives. We are blessed. We are thankful. We are in like the almost the fourth month of 2021, right? We've just celebrated the year of COVID shutdown, and we're still making it. We're still surviving. We're still here. I mean, to God be the glory. And look at, and not only are we still here, we're thriving, right? Because look at what you're doing. I
Thriving.
mean, thriving. I mean, what more can, that's nothing but God, right? Thriving in a pandemic, thriving being isolated at home, just doing our thing. So, you know, black girl magic around here, y'all. Bougie girls around here, bold, one of a kind, unbothered. God's girl, intentional and elegant. And before we end, because I didn't ask you, how dare I not ask my guests, what makes you bougie on tonight? Because you know you are a part of the original bougie squad. So what
Little
makes you
bougie.
bougie? You know, little bougie. You know, what makes you bougie on tonight?
I'm all of them. And this year I slowly became all of them because I'm bold. I'm definitely one.
Yes,
Nobody is like that out there like me. I'm
yes,
Alaina Stevens, okay?
right.
The only one in the world. Um,
Yes, yes.
um, um, God's girl. I'm unbothered now because I was bothered a few times, but now I know what it means to be unbothered.
Good.
I'm very intentional, and I'm just elegant.
Yes, you are, honey, with your locks going on, honey, and that purple. That's elegant. I
And my
mean, we all.
God, I'm about to be certified as a makeup artist.
Yes, elegance. You better level up with all these layers. That's what I'm talking about. We're talking about some photography, cosmetology, makeup artists. You're part of the National Photography Association. Won't he do it? Like, let's level
Only
up. Won't he will? Like, let's go, God. Come through with the business. Yes. So we are super excited. You know, you all. I hope you, if you miss any part of this conversation, please go back and watch it from the beginning. Share this out. It's going to bless someone. You all have a blessed night on tonight. Thank you again for following the platform, for following us. We do have a new name. It's no longer Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour. It is I'm Bougie Girl Podcast, because you know what? Everything is I'm Bougie Girl, right? We're Bougie Girls. We, you know, we got the King Squad with us, but you know, we're the Bougie Squad. So I had to do some leveling up in my own brand with consistency all across the board. So you can find me everywhere with I'm Bougie Girl. So thank you all again. My name is Miranda Chenault with my guest Alaina Michon. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight. You all be blessed. Have a relaxing evening and a great weekend. Be encouraged, and we will see you next week for another amazing episode of Her Story. Have a good night. God bless you guys.
Bye.